10. Pulling a gun. A Karen who pulled a gun on a mother and daughter outside of a Chipotle in summer of 2020 was charged with felony assault, along with her husband. Her name is Jillian Westenberg, and she went full Karen at about 6 o'clock in the evening one Wednesday in Oakland, California. She and her husband were leaving the Chipotle restaurant, and as they were walking out the door, Julian bumped into a woman who was walking in. For the sake of clarity, it's important to know that Jillian is a middle-aged white woman, like most Karens out there, and the woman she bumped into was black. What should have just been a simple encounter, maybe followed by an apology, turned into a shouting match. Jillian and her victim were screaming at each other. Somebody called Jillian a racist, and that was when her husband, Eric Westenberg, joined in with the shouting. Things got so out of hand that Jillian pulled a handgun out of her purse and pointed it at the woman. Her husband, Eric, pulled out his gun as well. The victim was helpless as she tried to protect her 3 daughters from being shot by 2 clearly mentally unstable people. Thankfully, nobody was shot, and the Westenbergs fled in their minivan. But the clip of what happened went viral, and the next day, both of them were arrested. Jillian and Eric were both charged with 1 count of felonious assault, which could land them up to 4 years in prison. 9. Delta Karen. By far one of the most notorious Karens of 2021 was the woman who assaulted an elderly man on a Delta flight. It happened on December 23rd, with the Delta Airlines flight going from Tampa to Atlanta. According to the Atlanta Police Department, it was Patricia Cornwall who caused a major disturbance in the middle of the flight, beating up an old man because of a dispute over masks. Her outburst led to the injury of other passengers and employees for Delta, and luckily for all of us at home, the whole thing was caught on video. It started when Patricia told an elderly man sitting in a seat to put his mask on. He told her to mind her own business and that he was eating. For anyone who took a plane during the pandemic, you'll know the only time you were allowed to have your mask off was when you were eating or drinking, which is totally understandable. But rather than leave things as they were, Patricia stood up and started screaming at him. But what makes the whole thing so truly ridiculous is that Patricia didn't even have her mask on throughout the exchange. She wanted him to put his mask on, but she couldn't be bothered to put on her own. As she screamed, she inadvertently spat on everybody in the general vicinity. Eventually, Patricia slapped the old man in the face. A flight attendant grabbed her arm, Patricia pushed her away, and then she spat in the man's face and hit him with a closed fist in the cheek. It took 3 flight attendants to finally get control of Patricia, and by that time, the elderly man was bleeding. She had to be restrained until the flight finally landed in Atlanta, at which point she was arrested. 8. Coughing on the sick. At a Pier 1 store in Jacksonville, Florida, a woman was caught on camera spitting and coughing on a brain tumor patient. It doesn't get much more Karen than this. On June 25, 2020, Deborah Hunter's life changed forever when she was ousted to the entire country as a piece of human garbage. The victim, Heather Sprague, managed to catch every last second of the bizarre outburst on her phone. Heather began recording when Deborah got into an argument with one of the employees at the store over an item return. When Deborah saw that she was being filmed, she walked up and coughed in Heather's face, blowing spit all over her skin. What she didn't realize was that the woman she had just coughed on was being treated for a brain tumor in the middle of a pandemic. If she had given Heather COVID deliberately, it could have caused major complications with her recovery process. Thankfully, everything was caught on video and Deborah was given a fitting sentence. She was ordered to pay a fine of $500, serve 6 months on probation, and attend a mental health evaluation and anger management. 7. The mother and son duo. In early December of 2021, a Karen from Tennessee and her son were caught on camera calling the police and assaulting a black man who was working in the garage of an apartment complex. The victim's name is Johnny Martinez. He was doing his job in the parking garage of the Nashville complex, which included checking vehicle permits. As he was in the middle of simply doing what he was supposed to, the mother and son approached him and demanded he tell them his business. He had no need to tell them what he was doing. It was absolutely none of their business, yet they took it to a whole new level of ridiculousness. Bitsy Brennan and her son, Edward, demanded to see this man's identification. They kept claiming he didn't live in the building. Then Edward tried to slap Johnny's cell phone out of his hand. It was all quite violent and provocative, and totally unnecessary. The mother and son Karens got a hold of the police, but they were gone by the time the cops arrived. They clearly knew they had done something wrong because Johnny stuck around to deal with the cops while they fled. But don't worry, they got what was coming to them soon enough. Bitsy lost her job following the incident. She had been an investment broker, but now that's all gone. Her company confirmed that she was no longer working for their firm about 5 days after the attack, and she had been working for the company for over a decade. All that hard work washed down the drain because a man with dark skin was doing his own job and minding his own business in her apartment complex, and she didn't like it. 6. The SOHO Karen. The SOHO Karen is about as notorious as Karens get. She first came on the scene in December of 2020 when she dragged a 14-year-old to the lobby floor of the Arlo Hotel in New York City. Why? She claimed he stole her phone. Footage of Maya Poinsetta tackling the teenager, who just so happened to be black, was captured by the teen's father and shared with everyone on the internet. She accused Keon Harold Jr. of stealing her cell phone, which was not true at all. Minutes after the incident took place, after the 22-year-old woman had basically assaulted a child, an Uber driver turned up with her phone. It looked like she had forgotten it in his vehicle. Maya basically ruined her life with this whole fiasco. She had been a cheerleader and aspiring actress, but quickly turned into one of the most hated people in New York City. As of right now, she's facing jail time and charges of committing a hate crime. But here's the icing on the cake. She was already a mess. She had gotten into trouble months before the SOHO incident when Maya and her mom caused a disturbance at a California hotel. Staff at the hotel asked them to leave, but Maya and her mother refused. Somebody called the Beverly Hills police, and when the cops came, they found Maya and her mother drunk in public. Maya's mother attacked the cops with some punches and kicks, and Maya was charged with public intoxication. She was also caught just the day before for driving drunk and was given a 3-year probation. 5. The Mega Karen. April 7, 2021, a Mega Karen was arrested by a pair of officers at a Nordstrom rack in Texas. The woman refused to wear her mask when she entered the store, then got physical with the employees inside. Her name is Cara Bell, and she told the employees she had a medical exemption and didn't need to wear a mask. When they said it didn't matter and she needed to leave, she started pushing the workers and getting very agitated. Then the cops showed up as she was standing outside ranting like an absolute crazy person. Cara Bell refused to identify herself. She was screaming about being a child of God and basically said she was allowed to do whatever she wanted. She also claimed that she was the one who was insulted by the employees and that she had been discriminated against for being white. In the end, this Karen didn't get into much trouble. She didn't do anything except refuse to wear a mask and act irrational and crazy. She was detained by the police and revealed to her community as an unstable person. Considering she was a local school board candidate at the time, this probably ruined her immediate plans. 4. Meltdown at the bagel shop. A woman in Florida had a meltdown at a bagel shop in January of 2021. At the time, she was a candidate for mayor in Boynton Beach, South Florida. Cindy Falco DeCorrada didn't act like much of a mayor, though, when she walked into the fast food restaurant without wearing a mask and then caused a scene. Immediately, workers at the Einstein Brothers bagel shop asked her to put a mask on her or leave. She responded by screaming like a banshee, crying that her rights were being violated, and complaining the masks were unconstitutional. She refused to leave, which may have actually saved her career. Instead, she was filmed having one of the biggest meltdowns probably of her adult life. Then, when the police came, things got even more heated. An officer moved in to arrest her, and she continued screaming. She told the officer to get their hands off of her. She said she had the right to protect herself. And then, as she was being carried away in handcuffs, she screamed that the officer was kidnapping her. She ended up being found guilty of trespassing and resisting an officer, with each offense punishable by up to 1 year in jail. Instead of running for mayor, Cindy might be sitting in a jail cell. 3. Hurling a whopper. Judith Ann Black is a retiree in her 70s who grew up in Texas and is living in Florida. In early 2021, Judith was caught on video throwing a Whopper at an employee at Burger King and dishing out some pretty harsh insults. She called the worker, who happened to be a black woman, something that I absolutely cannot repeat, but that you can probably guess. Why did the racially charged burst of anger start? According to the police report, Judith was upset that the tomato on her burger was too thick. When the employee asked if she would please calm down, Judith went on a racist rant and threw the burger in her face. Judith knew she had done something wrong. She got out of there as quickly as possible, but not before another employee got her license plate and phoned the police. The cops tracked Judith down to a retirement home, and she was promptly arrested and charged with battery. 2. The manager of the airport. On May 27, 2021, the airport Karen struck. Her name is Tare Ann Blues, and she was arrested on camera demanding to see the manager of the airport. She was an advanced form of Karen, evolving from screaming for managers at shopping centers to the mythical manager of the entire Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. Why was she so angry? Tare had been denied access to her flight. It had nothing to do with masks, but was because she was wasted and acting crazy. According to American Airlines, she was screaming at the counter. Then, when she was told to sit down and be patient, she ran to the bridge door in an attempt to push her way onto the plane. The police had to come and escort Tare out of the building. When they arrived on scene, the woman was sweating. She was breathing heavily, and her eyes were totally red and bloodshot. She was arrested for public intoxication and, when searched, was found to have containers of random pills and a small black pouch with a glass pipe. This Karen apparently had a bit of a pill problem. 1. SLURS in the park. A woman from Long Beach was caught in a viral video back in October of 2019 committing a racist attack. This one was bizarre because the woman, identified as Lena Hernandez, went out of her way to attack Asian Americans in a public park. This was in Torrance at Charles Wilson Park. Lena first assaulted a custodian at the mall, then attacked a Filipino-American woman, and was just being generally terrible to all the Asian people in the area. But it was her attack on the Filipino woman that earned her a cozy 45 days in jail. She shoved Kesa Lynn Saminao to the ground, pulled her hair, and punched her in the head multiple times. This was after 2 different incidents in June when Lena had been caught ranting in the same park, going off on racial tirades aimed at Asian Americans. She just kept going back to the park and screaming about Asians, clearly mentally disturbed. Hopefully the 45 days in jail will make her think twice about going back to the park and causing problems, or indeed, causing problems in any park. Thanks for watching. What's the craziest experience you've ever had with a Karen? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. See you next time. Bye.